Hey guys, it's Hannah and welcome back to the Dyslexic Reader. I'm back again, and I'm really excited. If you haven't been following my channel, I have taken a couple of months off at the end of last year. I felt really unmotivated with the whole YouTube thing, and I've been struggling with a lot of things, and I just wanted to take a good long break. I've before taken like a month off or something, and I feel like it isn't really long enough to really have a rest plus reflect. Like, I think it's hard to do both at the same time, so I needed time to like take away from it and not think about it at all, and then I needed another block of time to really reflect and think on what I want to do going forward. And I am back for the new year and I am super excited, and hopefully my motivation is back and I have some new ideas I want to put to you guys. That'll be in probably my next one or two videos, and my next two videos are going to be like my year in review and then my 2020 resolutions. Hello, Turnip. And I don't know which order they are going up in, but in my 2020 resolutions I'll talk more about the kind of ideas and like series and stuff I want to do going forward. But today, as always, we tend to end the years with the best and worst, and that's what I'm going to share with you guys today. My best and worst of 2019, 5 worst, 5 best. They aren't in any particular order within the worst and best. I have very few of them with me actually, because the majority of them were library books, but as always they will be pictures on the screen. Nippy really wants to get in on the action. And these are not necessarily 2019 releases, they are just books that I read in 2019, if you know what I mean. So let's start off with the worst and then we'll end on a happy note. The first one was If You Find This by Matthew Baker. This was just really bizarre to me. It was about like this boy and his granddad has kind of gone a bit senile, and he keeps mentioning this like buried treasure, and they go looking for it with like his friends, and like a bully gets roped in, but the bully's not really that bad, he's just misunderstood. And I just thought like the plot didn't make sense, the characters weren't very well developed, and I didn't really like it. All of my worsts were 2 stars and all of my bests were 5 stars. I tend not to give 1 star to a book unless like I found it had like dangerous, offensive material, and I didn't read any books like that this year, so 2 out of 5 was the lowest I gave any of these, because all books have merits, and I feel like 1 star is like really harsh unless it's like, because you can't give 0 stars. So 1 star is like the absolute lowest, and that's for absolute like we need to burn this trash. And I didn't read any books like that this year, so that's why they were all 2 stars if you go back and look at my reviews. The next one was the first Timmy failure book, which was Mistakes Were Made. Loads of people raved about this. It's a middle grade series, kind of in the style of Diary Wimpy Kid, that kind of comic book style. And it's about Timmy Failure, who thinks he's this great detective, and he is not, and that sounded good to me. But if you watch my channel, you know I read a lot of middle grade, so it's not that I wasn't used to the kind of humour, but it was very childish humour. I feel like a good middle grade book can be read and enjoyed and understood by everyone, but this one specifically was very targeted to like a 6-year-old kid and like wouldn't appeal to anyone else. So that's kind of why I thought I didn't like it. Like, I'm not saying that you can't like it if you're not 6, but for me that's what I felt like. There was no like humour in the jokes for an adult, if you know what I mean. But that's just what I felt, so I didn't really enjoy that. That was kind of a letdown. The next one is an adult novel. It's Milkman by Anna Burns. This won the Man Booker Prize. Anna Burns is the first ever person from Northern Ireland to win the Man Booker Prize, so that was really exciting for us. I had to wait on I think it was last year's, or like way at the start of January, and I waited like 7 months on the library waiting list to get this book, and I really didn't like it. It was just the writing style. I understand what she done. Like, I think from a Northern Irish perspective, it was really like you could really see the insight into this, but it was from the different angle of the community that I am, which doesn't mean I can't understand it. That was kind of a barrier to me, because there was some kind of jars and snibes against my side of the community, which I found a bit kind of like stuck with me. And also the writing style. With my dyslexia, I can't read like dialects very well, and the whole thing is written in a Northern Irish accent. And even though I have a Northern Irish accent, like I don't know how you would like phonetically spell like our slang, if you know what I mean. It's just a dyslexic thing with me. It just was a no-go from the off, and then the community thing kind of jarred me a wee bit. The next one is Violet and the Peril of the Orient. This was the first in a middle grade mystery series, again, which I just didn't like. Thought the mystery was a bit stupid, didn't really like the characters, and certainly wouldn't continue on with the series. And the last one was kind of a recent read for me, was The Book of Boy by Catherine Murdock. And I didn't really like this one. It sounded good. It was about a boy. Do you know how uncomfortable this is for me? Could you get down for a minute? Please? Thank you. It was about a boy who had a hunchback, and in medieval times, and he gets picked up by this traveller who's on a quest, and he wants him to be his boy, carry his stuff and all that kind of stuff. And then it turns out that the boy has some connection to the quest. Again, with the most things, the plot was a bit silly and the characters weren't very well developed, I didn't think. So at the end, I was kind of just like, oh, finish this. I was just kind of bored by the whole thing. There was a plot twist, which was just silly in my opinion. There was no building up, putting the, oh, could this be how that's connected in? And then it happens, you're like, oh, it is. It just kind of came out of nowhere. I was like, okay, it's kind of the whole book. It would almost be better if that twist wasn't in it and it was just about the journey. So that was my 5 worst books. None of them were terrible. I just didn't really jar with anyone, and we'll look at this in my next video where I do the review of 2019, because I actually don't know the stats, but it'll be interesting to see how my average rating this year, I think it was 3.3 or something last year, so it'll be interesting to see if that goes up, because I really didn't read a lot of terrible books this year. Sorry for the light changing, but my screen, I'm reading the names off the screen and the screen keeps going to sleep. Okay, now on to our best books. These were really good. The first one is Underwater Breathing by Cassandra Parkin, and I don't have this because I've already donated it to a new home, so hopefully someone else finds it as much as I did. This is about a boy, and it kind of flashes back to the future, or to the past and then the current time. And when he was a young boy, his mother left in the middle of the night with his sister, completely gone, left him with the dad. Now he is an adult, and the dad has got, it's not really said, but maybe dementia or Alzheimer's or something along, a degenerative mental condition. And he's looking after him, and he's reminiscing about the sister. The sister comes back and tells about what all led up to them disappearing and what has happened to them since. And it's really a story about perception and perspectives, and how this one event happened, but all 4 members of the family had a completely different view because of their experience, because of what they had seen, because of what they had heard, because of how they witnessed it. They all had completely different ideas and memories of what had happened. And I just thought it was really well written. It was well put together. The characters were good, and the whole whole premise to it was super interesting. This stack of books that I always have up here is books that I am going to pass on, donate, and it's either books that I've just had on my shelf so long, I'm like, no, the interest is gone. Books that I have read, and even if I really enjoyed them, if this book, I never think I would read it again, it gets passed on, or I didn't like it, and they go to swaps or charity shops, donation boxes, things like that. Libraries in Northern Ireland don't take donations, so you just have to get around with it otherwise. And sometimes I even give it to people in my life who I think would enjoy it, but that's a rarity because nobody of my family or friends read that much. So that's why you always see this random stack on top of the bookshelves. I save up a big stack and then donate them, but that's a completely different story. Okay, the cat wanted to be put out, so that had to be sorted, hence the cut. The second book is the Mistborn trilogy. The Final Empire was the first book by Brandon Sanderson. Fantasy series about people who ingest metals and can utilize their power. Most people can take one metal, tin, aluminium, steel, iron, and use it for one power that will enhance their strength, their sight, or hearing. Or Mistborns can ingest all the metals and use them, and they can use all the things, but you have to ingest the metal and then you use it in your system as you can run out and stuff. It's an interesting magic system. It's also a very political fantasy, and the political system's really interesting, about the king and how they're trying to overthrow him, but the whole political system, and it's just so good. And see, the ending of that third book blew my mind. Never read anything like it, and that's what I really enjoy in fiction. I love, no matter what genre it is, no matter what age group it's written for, to read something that's you've never read anything like it before, to me is like the most enjoyable thing, and that's why I go to like the library all the time and just pick up the randomest books that probably no one has ever heard of and it might not be too good. You're kind of taking a risk on them, but I love that chance of finding something that's so unique. So things like the Raven Cycle, I loved it because it was so unique, and I'm sure there are other books out there maybe like it, but I had never read anything like it, and that just makes it so much more special to me. And I just love like unique worlds and unique storytelling, and I think I find that a lot more in fantasy, and that's why I enjoy that genre so much. The next book was The Seven Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. I always say Evelyn Hugo because it's The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and The Seven Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. Easy to mix up, by Stuart Turton. I really like this one. Our main character is trying to, he's in this big house, he can't get away, he doesn't remember who he is, why he's in this house, but every day he wakes up as a different person in the house, and there's a murder happens and he has to relive that day over and over and over again as different characters until he works out the death. But there's like a storyline of like there's other people trapped there and they're being different people, and why are they here, and like if he solves it he can get out, and the whole premise of it was very interesting. But I thought the murder was good. There was a couple of people, and this was something I wanted to talk about but I wasn't really in BookTube at the time. When it came out, a lot of people were saying that there was fat, like the book fat shamed, and I would argue that our main character fat shamed, and I think we have to kind of, this is maybe a discussion for another day, but there's a way for like characters to have bad traits, but it doesn't mean the book is promoting those traits, if you know what I mean. Like characters have to have bad traits, bad personality traits. Not every main character can be perfect. I think characters are more likable when they are not perfect. So yeah, our main character definitely wasn't perfect, and some would argue was really not a nice guy. And I would normally say in books that when you do that sort of thing, then you need other characters to challenge them on it, but it wasn't really possible in this book because the whole thing was in his mind. Like he was all the different characters, and like he didn't know who was real and who wasn't, and the whole thing was written like from his point of view in his mind. So you couldn't really have other characters. Like he was thinking to himself these thoughts, he wasn't vocalizing them, so no one could really challenge him on it. So I don't think that the book was really fat shaming. I think our main character was fat shaming, and just because of the style of the book, there was no dialogue to counteract it, if you know what I mean. So I don't know how that all plays into it, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought the mystery was good. I thought the idea was really unique again, and I would definitely recommend it if you like mysteries. Our last two books I actually have. One of them I own, the other one, this first one, it was a library book, but I loved it so much I had to buy my own copy, and that is The Land of Neverending by Kate Saunders. This is a book about our main character. She her older sister, who had a lot of physical medical conditions, had passed away, and she's trying to come to terms with that. And then her sister's favorite bunny comes to life, and all the toys come to life, and she's taken to the Land of Neverendings, where the toys live, but it's also connected to the land where like dead children live, and they can play with the toys, kind of type thing. It's hard to explain, it kind of comes out like in bits through the story. I thought this was beautifully written. I thought that the characters were really good. I thought that it was super realistic in like the feelings around the topic, like how a child would feel, how a parent would feel, how the friend of this girl would feel. Like they were all very realistic. I thought it was put in such a way that children would definitely understand and empathize, which is hard to do with big topics like this sometimes. And I generally just thought it was a great book with a great message. I've been thinking about doing a cat's running around again, a video on my channel about books to help children grieve. It's a topic I'm interested in. is a topic that I've read quite a lot of books about, like children's books that tackle grieving, and this one was definitely would be in the top 3. Like, it was absolutely fantastic, one of the best that I've ever read. So if you're struggling with the grief of a child, or if you know a child who is struggling with grief, or a parent of a child struggling with grief, if it's over a sister, a parent, a friend, grandma, whatever, I think this book better deals with the death of another young person, whether it be a cousin, a friend, a sibling, just another child in the town or the street, or that they went to school with, even if they weren't friendly with them. This one is particularly great with this, so I would definitely recommend that. But I think that is definitely a discussion I'm going to get into another day and talk about it. Subject close to my heart, and I really think this one is an absolute winner. So after I read it in the library, I picked myself up my own copy, and then this is out of my top 5 books, the only one that I actually owned this year. And again, it was another fantasy series, and this one is Eragon. It's the Inheritance Cycle by Christopher Paolini, and it is like a dragon based fantasy. There was dragons and dragon riders, and the dragon riders were kind of kept the peace in the land. But one of them turns bad, kills all the rest of them, and becomes like the High King, kind of like the Mistborn trilogy. So he kind of abuses his powers, whatever. And all the other dragon riders and dragons are dead because he killed them all. But one dragon egg survived and attaches for our main character, and it's about him trying to train up in secret, and then but also help the resistance and try to overthrow this king. The whole political system and like the issues with them, well, if we get rid of him, who should rule, because it can't be this person because they'll do the same thing. So again, there's that kind of political hint. There's lots of twists and turns in this one. I really enjoyed all 4 books. I think I gave the third one 4 stars and the other 3 5. I always find like the penultimate one in the series is just kind of building up to the penultimate, which is always needed but never as much fun. So I know that the story wouldn't have made sense if they just split that up into the other books, but as a book in itself, it kind of feels a bit pointless. So that's why it got slightly less. There was one too many twists. The twist at the end of the first book was good. The twist at the end of the second book, it was good. The ending was good, but that end of the third book was kind of went back on itself. It was a bit pointless. But I really thoroughly enjoyed the whole series. I really enjoyed reading them. I done a flick back and forth between physically reading and also listening to the audiobook. I got them at my library, and I was able to just chapter by chapter either physically read or listen to, depending on what I was doing, and that definitely worked really well. The audiobooks for these are really good. I really wanted to read these when they were big, when they first came out, when I was a teenager, yeah, early 2000s, and because of my dyslexia, I just was not able to. I wasn't at the reading standard. I got this first one out from the library a couple of times and couldn't even get through the first chapter. It was too hard. So I really am glad that I finally be able to get to these, and with the aid of audiobooks, actually get through them and understand them and really enjoyed them. So this series has to make my top 5 too. This video is probably much longer than anyone wanted to listen to, so if you stuck through this, whether it was in one sitting or multiple, thank you very much. I'm really glad to be back. I'm back to my rambling, sitting here randomly. The last couple of months I've just been sitting here reading, so to be sitting here rambling again feels really good. And yeah, this month is going to be chock full, because I normally would do best books of the year and like year in review and resolutions at the end of the year, but because I decided to take the whole of December off and not start the new year, this month is going to be packed full with all those kind of videos, and hopefully we'll get back up to a weekly schedule that will continue throughout the year. So thank you very much, guys. I hope you're all happy, I hope you're all healthy, and hopefully I'll see you in my next video. Goodbye.